Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining Tuskegee University SMART to celebrate KUUMBA. If you're not familiar, Kwanzaa is a 7-day holiday beginning the day after Christmas and acknowledged through the first of the new year. Kwanzaa was founded by Maulana Karinga as a way of uniting and empowering the so-called Black community. Cannabis is an extremely versatile agriculture commodity with over 50,000 implications for everyday use, where smoking is only one. KUUMBA is where we explore the diversity of cannabis and what it means for the future of our community, especially in the face of climate change. Today, we celebrate the principle of KUUMBA, which represents creativity.
All of our viewers who are joining us, we want to say thank you so much. I am Candace Clark, also known as Candle the Farm Plug, and you are watching a CISC production. It's also brought to you by Tuskegee University Cooperative Extension, College of Agriculture, Environment, and Nutrition Sciences, and the Student Marijuana Alliance for Research and Transparency. So all of us are coming together to have this conversation around KUUMBA and to explore these intersections for us in our community and what they really mean. So we know in the tradition of Kwanzaa, we begin with the greeting of Habari Gani.
KUUMBA!
Ashe. And Kuumba means creativity, which is one of my favorite of all time. This is of the 7. This is probably like my top one, And so our featured panelist today, Mr. Al Coxton, is amazing. Some will call him a mad scientist of sorts, but Al, I'm going to give you some space. You just told us a little bit about, how you got into the space, but tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why are you here today? Who is Al Coxton?
Al Coxton is kind of what I call the nutty professor when it comes to green energy and green sustainability. And it's a passion of mine that I've had for years. And it's just that it's an opportunity for the next generation and generations to follow to be part of the new financial wealth that's about to be released. And understanding that the viability of clean, sustainable growth, jobs creation, and we are on the cusp of something fantastic. And hemp is going to be the leader of the whole operation.
All right, so let's dive into it, right? Our principle of the day is KUUMBA, which means creativity. So what does creativity mean for you?
It means sustainability, teaching oneself, disciplining oneself, and understanding that you're only limited by your own imagination.
So when we talk about the cannabis industry, right, some people are like, oh no, and then some people are like, oh yes. But what is the role of creativity for you within the cannabis space?
The cannabis space for me, well, of course, I've been in it since normal, even gotten arrested for it in Venice Beach. That's a different story. But idea of it is that we have cannabinoids within us, and it's really our defense system for all these bacteria that we have called cancer. So the idea of it is to be able to use it and use it functionally and to use it to extract chemicals out of the ground. And when I found out that cannabis can actually get rid of forever chemicals, it can take out toxins, dioxins, sulfides out of the soils, that we can actually have more organic soils, I just fell in love with the whole idea. And through that, I have a lot of engineers that I've worked with over the years, and we have technology that we can literally take the cannabis and convert it into sustainable energy and fuel. And with that, we can take the waste material from extracting the toxins and turn it into a viable product to actually have the farmers and the infrastructure, fuel, batteries, generators, to use the hemp and the graphene that's produced from it to be able to have a whole new future that we as farmers and infrastructure people, there's so many different levels of job that we have an opportunity for everyone involved.
So typically when people think of like creativity, they may think of drawing or sculpting or painting or rapping or making clothes, or, you know what I'm saying? Just things that are more, I guess, are considered arts, right? In the arts section. But we're talking about research, innovation, and development, right? So how do you use your work within the industry to showcase your creativity?
Actually, it's showing how you can use abstract information and focus it into the actual arena that you need to be in. And for us, for me, it's sustainable fuel, sustainable energy, and it's the new opportunity is biofuel. And
Mm.
biofuel is going to be the #1 ticket. Right now, it's about $1.5 trillion just in the United States. So we need to be able to get our foothold in that industry and to take thousands of acres that are sitting dormant and put our farmers back to work. At one time, hemp was a demand to be grown in the United States until the Rockefellers and all the rest of it made it illegal because they didn't want any competition against their cotton and their alcohol that they were producing.
So I'm pretty sure you just kind of answered this question, which is kind of interesting how you're just segueing into the next one. But like, what would you say is your niche, and why is that your niche? Why are you choosing to hone in on what you're choosing to focus on?
Well, biofuel energy is a waste product that we can actually turn into a viable, usable product, which is biodiesel, generator fuel, tractors, and also transportation, and even including building generators to run our independent communities. So that was my main course of working and looking at cannabis and being able to extract the toxins and convert that into a usable product.
Mm. You know, that's why we just actually had the USDA, the Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Vilsack. He was literally just at Tuskegee a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned he was sitting down having a conversation with the CEO of United Airlines, and he was asking, you know, like what is the future looking like? And he said biofuel. He said that that it's going to be huge, right? And basically what you just said, can you run those numbers by me again? Say what you said, $1 trillion, like.
Yes, it's going to go up to 5 to 10 globally, but right now, just in the United States, everyone has to switch over, and it's really the big key operative, and they're having problems finding the bio product to create the fuel that's needed.
Man, so this could be kind of hard for people to conceptualize. Like, how do we go from this plant, from just this seed that we put in the ground, into something that can fuel our cars, something that can fuel jets and rocket ships? Like, can you kind of walk us maybe through, like, in a very, 101, like, I'm not a scientist, I am a regular person. How do we get from a seed to jet fuel?
Well, it's the lipids that are inside the seeds, and also the cellular that we have in the plant itself can make an ethylene or ethylene glycol, which is basically a hydrocarbon. All fuels are made out of hydrogen and carbon, and cannabis has 3 times the amount that most plants can grow in a 90-day period. So we have a big abundance of being able to take that plant, extract chemicals out of the ground, turn it back into an organic base for regular food, and at the same time using that waste material, because the cannabis will absorb all those toxic chemicals, and we can take them and turn them into a fuel.
So usually when we're thinking about like maybe research, development, and innovation, um it brings to mind billions, right? And these big numbers. And I think sometimes those big numbers may make people feel like innovation is unattainable or it's inaccessible to us, right? And so what would you say to someone who feels like, these numbers that you're saying are too big or too far away for us to really be able to harness and really, utilize and really leverage for our community?
Well, it's just like anything else. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. So it's understanding how we can work with our farmers, being able to grow the planet, the product for the planet, cure the planet, and actually use the actual byproduct for other things other than worrying about CBD. There's so many other locations that we have available to literally take tens of thousands of acres and create a fuel that we desperately need and could bring our farmers back into a financial security.
Okay, now, so I've been able to kind of spend some time going back and forth to California, looking at like their innovations and how, like, not even just what they're doing, but how they're able to do it, right? And it seems that when I was out there was something that they kept mentioning was an ecosystem innovation, or an ecosystem of innovation, right? Where you have everyone in the space kind of thinking forward or thinking progressively and trying to solve problems. So I mean, not that we need to look like, you know, other communities, or like we need to copy other people, but like how do we bring that home? What does that look like for us, you know?
It's actually using the energy as a clean infrastructure for growing organic foods indoors, for producing our own power supply, for producing our own energy needs, and having our own community sustainable energy systems that we can literally run our own communities and have our
So,
own cooperative.
okay, so, but like, okay, now work backwards. You've told me the goal, right? So the goal would be like for us to be able to have like literally our own, it sounds like our own like power grids that we're literally being able to grow and feed with the biomass, right, that we're growing. But how, now you've mentioned cooperatives, right? So how does that kind of fit into what you're talking about?
The cooperative, by being in a membership, that's why I started Know to Grow, a non-for-profit. And being part of the membership allows you to buy our product at a 20% discount. And we can create our own fuel stations. We can create our own power plants. And we can actually have our own infrastructure so that we can create jobs for the long term. Because the equipment that I've designed or helped design runs 30 years. It only stops every 6 years for maintenance. So the buildings and the equipment that we're running are running for generations. And I have a video that I can also send you to show you kind of what we do with waste and waste products, whether it's petroleum based or if it's organic based. And right now, the organic biofuel is the key player right now that we have an opportunity to be in a evolving community that's just snipped its cord. So it's growing, and we have a chance to be a part of it. And believe it or not, George Washington Carver started it years ago with the soybean, and working with Henry Ford, producing the panels on his vehicles that were actually made from cannabis and soybean.
Okay, wait, run that back for me. You're saying that George Washington Carver, well, I've definitely seen pictures of George Washington Carver and Henry Ford, and I knew about the soybean biofuel. And in fact, we, you know, on campus right now, we still have Dr. Morley, and he's doing a lot of research. He's been one of our featured panelists this week as well, talking about his research. But when you're talking about the actual material of the car, can you elaborate on that one a little more?
Yes. 1 second. I have to get something out of the other room. A piece of note. Can we get a pause?
Yeah.
Thank you. 1 second.
So, Candace, this is really beautiful for a number of reasons. Yesterday we interviewed Dr. Morley, but Dr. Morley will air a day before Al. Dr. Morley Dr. Morley went over the industrial industry being the real industry where our farmers need to be focused. Like that was one of the things he talked about. We talked about Bassport. We talked about how corporations, when I mentioned to you that overlap that I'm looking for, that overlap already exists, but because the corporations, they need production, They want domestic production.
You breaking up. I can't hear you. You're breaking up.
I'm sorry, I'm coming out of wire.
Okay.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Okay. I was actually trying to look for a brochure that I could kind of instruct you on what we're talking about, and the whole industry is other sections other than actually touching the plant. So having the infrastructure of biofuel, we can actually even have our own gas stations or fuel stations, because biofuel does not have to be put into the ground, and we literally can use it for transportation, for all of our farmers, for using all their tractors, and the infrastructure even for running backup generators for our houses. So it's a very, very, very big opportunity to generate other jobs in the infrastructure other than just actually trying to grow the plant, from coring the plant to using every fiber of the plant, and the benefits of the fibers in the ground, because hemp grows, their tentacles or roots grow 9 feet into the ground. It aerates the soil and actually allows the water to soak back into the ground rather than being a hard location. So it's quite a bit of a product.
Yeah, you were before you left, you were talking about the relationship between Carver and hold on, I'm sorry. Yeah, turn it up.
Yeah,
you were talking
before. There's actually a video back in the day of them making panels from hemp and the oils, and producing most of the paints that we used to use before lead-based paints is made from hemp oil. So there's a lot of products, and there's over 2,500 products that can be made from hemp. And understanding how we can use them today and actually form. And there's an old video of a gentleman with a baseball bat beating on the back of a Ford, that George Washington Carver had created this product with the Ford company to make this product, to make panels. Right now, BMW is using hemp for their vehicles and also for the panels on their cars. Now they're going to be using hemp with carbon fiber to make military bulletproof vests for military. So the limit is, the sky is the limit.
Exactly. So, and that was gonna be my next question. Like, so like the sky literally is the limit, right? But it's almost like our imaginations are the box, right? The limit that does exist is the limit that we're putting on ourselves, right? So in a way, like creativity, like how important is creativity for us moving forward in the face of climate change, as we respond to all these social ups and downs, responding to the war on drugs? I definitely emphasize climate change and the war on drugs, because that really shows why we're doing kind of KUUMBA. We have a radio show that we were doing in Montgomery called Growing the Green, where we're kind of trying to educate people on this. But sometimes it really is just about being able to think bigger or to imagine a different reality. So what do you consider the role of creativity for us moving forward? What does it look like for you?
For us to be able to use it from fiber for building buildings, also for foam insulation inside your walls, for insulation, for using it for food stock for animals, feed stock for our own. The leaves themselves make a great lettuce. Understanding how we can use the product for ourselves and also for animal, and knowing that we have a most viable product that they found in King Tut's tomb. Cannabis seeds have been used for thousands of years. So it's just a matter of how we apply it. And now that we're in a modern day age and carbon sequestration, is another key operative. And people are talking about that, but do not know that hemp sequesters 3 times more carbon per acre than any other plant on this planet. Half of it gets put into the fiber, the other half gets absorbed through the atmosphere. And then we can take that plant, and once we put it through our system, we crystallize that carbon. That carbon now can be considered a carbon sequestration in itself. It can be placed in the ground as a fertilizer, or we can actually use it to create graphene, which they're using now to make new super chips. So understanding what different areas that it can be applied in, and the science who are using it in different areas, and now even on new solar panels, the new panels everyone's talking about is made from carbon. And the best carbon can be actually produced from the hemp cannabis seeds. So it's just a remarkable product, knowing that even the seed has the highest, what is it, the G3, not G3, what is it, the 3, omega-3 vitamin that you could actually ever have. So that's for chickens, for eggs, with diatomaceous earth, you actually can rebuild the structure of your own bones.
Oh my God. Like, and that's just like scratching the surface of what we know we can do with this plant. Like, we haven't even been able to do enough research to know what we don't know to start plugging in and filling in some of the gaps. So like, it's like when it comes down to hemp and cannabis, like creativity is all we have. It's really all we need in a certain type of way to start solving some of the problems that we're really dealing with today.
Absolutely.
So when we're talking about carbon sequestration, and I sound that out and I say it really slowly, but can you kind of break down what that is and what that means for the whole world and like the greater impact of that?
Well, what that does is it actually allows the soil to breathe. It actually allows the soil to soak in moisture, and it keeps it from becoming rock hard, where we have to use more chemicals every time we grow a new crop. Because actually the nitrates that actually the hemp has, and it puts back into the soil, even with the carbon, it allows it to have the microbiome infrastructure in the soil that we desperately need, that we don't have to use toxic chemicals to grow the next crop. And now again, that goes back to Dr. George Washington Carver, rotating your crop, and being able to use hemp as one of your crop rotations, and putting nitrates back into the ground so you don't have to use a chemical nitrogen to be able to grow the next crop.
Wow. So essentially, like you just described the process of like of bioremediation, and you're describing the ability of cannabis as a plant to physically heal the soil that we have been depleting by overplanting and over fertilizing for the last like hundreds of years. So when we think about George Washington Carver and one of the things he's most famous for, when we think about the peanuts and the soybeans, and that's cool, but it was like crop rotation, like the process of like moving your crops around and giving the soil a break and a chance to regenerate itself. But what you're saying is that cannabis is like the crop rotation 2.0 when you're adding in. So I know like sometimes farmers add in legumes, right? Or they add beans because the beans add nitrogen, right, to the soil. But what you're saying is that we can incorporate hemp into that too, and like basically keep these processes, like maximize the benefits, kind of.
10x, because like I said, because the roots go 9 feet into the ground, most, like even the peanut, most abundant use, it only goes 3 to 4 feet into the ground. And knowing that the plant itself can actually harbor that nutrient and constantly bring it up. When you till your soil, you're bringing up new nutrients. And every time you rotate, you're actually fortifying your soil so that you technically really don't need to have much fertilizer other than organic, that we normally would use from the farmers and the cows and the chicken.
So now I kind of want to walk this back around, right? Because I think when we talk about hemp and cannabis, again, some people are like, yay, and then some people are kind of like, because of, so many years of like misinformation and miseducation, right? So if for a farmer in the Southeast, right, you're talking about carbon sequestration, You're talking about like ecosystem value. You're talking about like real opportunity to maximize your profits and your gains while also maximizing the services of your farm to the earth. So like literally healing the air that your community is breathing, right? So what would you say to a farmer? What would you say to a farmer who may be kind of like not interested? Like, why should they maybe be interested, or what could it do for them?
Well, it's all about the Benjamins, because you actually receive money for taking the CO2 out of the air. That's carbon sequestration. By putting it into the ground permanently, you get so much per ton for putting it into the ground so that it never goes back into the atmosphere. And turn it into a carbon crystal, you literally are feeding the soil and you're planting it in the soil so that the water will actually trickle back into our underground water reserve, and everyone wins. Versus having a hard surface that you can't plow. You have to use more chemicals in order to grow your next crop. You use less chemicals. You use a biofuel to run your tractors at a better discount because you're part of our collective, and even the collective would purchase all of the food that you grow. So we know that you get the top benefit of the price of your product, because now they don't want you to transport your product across the country. They want you to be within 50 miles of the consumption of your product. So by having a closed loop system, we have an opportunity to put our farmers back to work versus having farmers come here from South Africa, from South America, taking over positions and jobs that we could be using for our generations in the future.
So what if I'm not a farmer though? What if I'm just a regular person? Like, why would I care about this? What would this mean to me?
Again, having a clean food base, no dioxins, no sulfides, other chemicals that would be extracted into your food now are no longer in your food, which are causing the female cysts in the uterus, and all the other problems they're having are because of all these toxic man-made overlay chemicals versus having a natural abundance. And it would lower our cancer rate. It would lower our dementia rate, because we need that omega-3 fat in our brains, because that's our brain is all fat tissue. And being able to have that, if you take that fat away, you have less likelihood of the synapses to snap off and to connect, because they're calcificating, just like your pineal gland. In certain cultures, their pineal gland is calcified, and within our culture, it is not. That's why we have the creative eye. We have creative understanding to move forward.
So I think in general that there is a gap, and that's why I asked those questions in those ways, right? A farmer may care about certain information for one reason, or a layperson, an everyday individual may care about information for another reason. But when it comes down to science in general and research in general, I think sometimes there's a gap between the new information that comes out and then the connection to the people that it matters the most for, right? So how can we fill that gap? Why is filling that gap important to our community, and what can we do to fill that gap?
Well, again, like I used to tell my students when I was teaching in inner city schools at University of Southern California, knowledge is power. And understanding how to apply that knowledge is the true power. It's just like knowledge and wisdom. You can have knowledge, but it takes time to apply the knowledge to gain the wisdom. And knowing that the different variables that are available, like I said, it's like an alphabet. The book is based upon the alphabet, and all the books cannot be written because it's just your imagination and how you apply those alphabets and being able to make the combination to create.
No, that was probably like the rawest metaphor I think I've ever heard for like creativity. Like it was like words are just they're just letters, and the way like your ability to put them together is literally like it's policy, it's legislation, it's stories, it's fiction, it's history. It's like literally what makes up everything in a certain type of way. So to be able to put that was pretty dope. Thank you for that. I'm putting that one in my pocket. So another question I have, and I maybe have like one or two more, and I want to make some space for Lakaya and Natasha to ask some questions, because I know in the chat she popped up and asked about the comparison of carbon sequestration between cannabis and trees.
Oh, they found one of the brochures. That's okay.
Yeah, between cannabis and trees, right? So, because again, when we think about the entire Earth, right, there are so many initiatives all over the planet to reforest, right? People are planting trees like crazy because they're trying to figure out how we can get more carbon dioxide out of the air at a faster rate. But based on what you're saying, we could just be planting cannabis everywhere.
Absolutely. Let me get this copy real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Look, how you had started breaking up at the end last time you was talking. You wanted to say something?
I was really just pointing out to you the connections between what happened theoretically yesterday and how it's directly connecting to what's happening today. And I did hear him say that, you know, cannabis sequesters carbon 3 times more than any plant. And I'm just wanting to double down on that, like 3 times more than any tree also as a plant. Because
trees. Yeah, I think it does though. It does though, because you got to think about it too. Like trees take a longer time to grow, so like the longer it takes them to grow. There's police in this little undercover car next to me. That little putt roaring engine. They undercover. They super undercover. They are trying to catch somebody lacking.
Yeah. Sorry for the interruptions. It's just that I had someone looking for me for my outline, and they brought me the wrong one. So now they're going back to try. Sorry for that. Just the interruption.
No, it's no problem. It's no problem. I think also, if you could send us, when you send us your bio and you sent your resume and your photo, could you send us the link to that video too? Because I think it'll be cool for us to maybe play it and add it on to the end.
I've sent you an outline on the hemp and the outlines of what hemp can do, and basic information that I'm kind of reiterating here. I have already sent it to you. So it's, I don't know, about 5 or 6 pages I put together on the hemp infrastructure that we're looking for biofuels. So that would give you a better understanding, or if there was another time that you wanted to ask me other questions, or even on camera, off camera, I will be able to help you understand and putting together the training program. We're looking for independence, and that's financial, being able to do the financial literacy, showing them how to actually be the investors for the future, setting up their trust funds for their future generation, and controlling the aspect of our future, which I call playing the long game and not the short game. Understanding how this one product is a godsend, and knowing that we have an opportunity to actually produce it at such a level that other cultures are doing it right now, and we need to understand the infrastructure. Leasing acres and acres of land, being able to get into the biofuel industry, because Mr. Lastic was talking about, I'm fully aware of that, because actually I'm connected semi to the USDA myself, and understanding what is the long run. This whole program started in the Obama administration and the Treasury Department putting together the financial wealth exchange to be able to work with disadvantaged communities. And this is a primary operation, and we are on the ground floor, that if we don't mess it up, we would have an opportunity to be a level playing field. And hemp is actually the level playing field. And knowing that they don't want us having access to this until they've got all of their positions in place. And it's such a large, vast opportunity that there's no way that they're going to fill all those spaces. The creativity and the ingenuity Actually, we've already brought it to the planet, and all they're doing is taking it and copying it. And we have an opportunity, like I say, build the infrastructures. I have almost 25 different sub corporations that can be placed in every disadvantaged community that all can be able to create livable jobs, and they're all based upon sustainable energy. Every aspect of it. We can own our own power plants. We can own our own power supply. We can own our own building infrastructure. That's Booker T. Washington. I keep mentioning these two people because they were heroes when I was growing up. And when I heard about your program, I was just, anything to do with George Washington Carver, I'm in, believe me. And I wrote papers when I was in college. So it's the idea of knowing that the knowledge that we actually have changed the world, but they don't give Mr. Carter the credit.
They don't. And like one of my hood names is like Cando the Farm Plug, and as a farm plug, George Washington Carver is one of my most revered ancestors because of not only his obvious innovations, but because of the way that he was able to harness his curiosity and his creativity. Because a lot of people don't know, but George Washington Carver was an artist before he was a scientist in the first place. He was encouraged to go into art by one of his teachers, because it was going to be hard for him to make a living as a Black artist during that time. So he was encouraged to pursue science, but he never stopped being a creative problem solver, a creative thinker. His curiosity is what led him to be a problem solver. He wouldn't have asked half the question he asked had he not been curious and creative about the world around him and the problems that the farmers were facing. And I see so much of that in you, and I'm so appreciative of you taking out the time to talk to us.
I thank you, because the thing is, I love art too, but I can't draw. So I had to rely on photography, lithography, and etching. I do a lot of metal etching. I curate a lot of equipment. And with that scientific knowledge and understanding how it works, it can be applied in any level, because it's a hypothesis, theory, law. That's everything based upon that trinity. And we have that built inside of us, even back to the Dogons. So it's the idea of, and they were the first people to actually work with cannabis. But the idea of it is to understand how we can apply this infrastructure. And I keep going back to biofuel, because biofuel is the key operative right now for us to have financial security.
Ashe. So before we close, I got this one question that is kind of burning, which is about the budding industry and how it's growing, and it's attracting any and everyone who can actually see the opportunity. So what advice would you give to any individuals that are looking to navigate the cannabis space successfully?
Find out what is best, your talent, and use that talent in whatever venue that the cannabis industry needs. Whether you're verifying the toxicities in the cannabis for us to say that we've extracted it from the earth, the idea that you're a scientist, the idea that you're an artist, because all the oils that can be used to make different type of tinctures of color, the idea of being able to not just have to grow the plant, but all the other infrastructure from manufacturing, from coring, from running the operation, being able to be any part of the whole chain of opportunities. The opportunities are endless, and all the degrees that are available, we need those. We need the accountants, we need the scientists, we need the technology to be able to verify the amount that has been absorbed, the amount has been put into the soil, the amount that we're using to produce fuel, how much fuel can we produce from per acre, knowing that an acre is $2,500 versus corn is only $800. So the profit values and understanding how they can be used and extracted, there's just so many different levels that it's endless. It literally, like I said, I did send you over a little brochure of understanding. And if there's any time that you need for me to extrapolate on that, I'll be more than happy to work with you, because you have to be kind of careful with me, because I'll be all over the place, as you can see. So I have to focus on biofuel, Al. Biofuel. We're talking about biofuel.
No, I see that, but you're also an artist, and that's what you just said, right? If you're an artist, then you're a scientist. And I think that that's important and that's beautiful. And you, even the way that you do your work is kind of an embodiment of that.
Well, I thank you. And then right now is I want to make sure that the generations coming forward have an opportunity to see us working, to be able to see abilities from building housing, from using hemp, from building power supplies from hemp, and being able to actually have infrastructure, either whether it's medicinal infrastructure or if it's just a everyday going back to school, work, using the fuels in your vehicle.
Ashe. So before we sign off, Al, I know people are going to want to get in contact with you. So how can people get in contact with you? You got a website, email, your hotline?
The email that I've sent you at TADCO at Gmail, atadco007 is my email that I can be reached at. But primarily we're putting together as we speak, knowtogrow.org, so that we will have a certain section in there just on hemp and all the other opportunities for, we're putting together a membership program so that we can teach, train, have videos and showing them how the application and the whole infrastructure of all the other plethora of applications that I'm talking about comes back to biofuel. And the key operative of I found in biofuel is hemp. It's going to be the key player in the future.
Ashe. Everybody, we talk about Wakanda, but it sounds like Wakanda's in the seed. It's in a hemp seed somewhere in there, whatever we're looking for. So do you have any, and before we go, I want to give you space for any shameless plugs. Do you have any upcoming events, anything coming up in 2023 that people should know about, that you want them to be aware of? You want to shout out your mama? Any shameless plugs or shout outs that you just want to put out there?
I'm coming to your side of the town. We're going to be working with the infrastructure on the new housing development for the program. I'm hopefully to bring some enlightenment on how we can use the product in order to grow and actually create and produce some of the infrastructure that we have available, because there's so many different levels. Like I said, it's hard for, I'm all over the place. So any aspect, we can actually have something that's going to be viable. And again, it's all based around hemp. It is the miracle plant on this planet. It was a gift to us. And others tried to stop us from using it and extracting it. And like I said, it made all of our original paints. It made all of our original plastics. And until they stopped it in the 30s, we actually had the opportunity until the 50s when they had to bring it back in order to help with World War II. So it's just a matter of knowing that we have a viable product that can do a financial blessing.
Ashe. Well, it's been a perfect segue from our conversation yesterday with Dr. Morley into what we've been able to chat about with you. Everything is about creativity. We are creative problem solvers. It is something that is in us. We are born with that, and it is a tool. And I think my biggest takeaway from our conversation is, again, if you're an artist, if you're a creative, then you're a scientist, and we need you. And we are the ones, the creatives are the ones who are going to innovate and come up with the things that are going to change the future. So Al, you're definitely one of them. Thank you so much. Ashe, for everyone who's been able to tune in, we appreciate you for sliding through. We got the beautiful Lakaya Natasha on the tech support in the background, coming through with all of the love and the energy and these supportive questions. And tomorrow is faith. You know what I'm saying? We stepping into faith. It's gonna be 2023. So, let's get to it. We're gonna have our dialogue. So it'll be a space for everyone to come together from this week, and we'll just be able to talk about what not even just 2023, but 2023 and beyond. And so we definitely hope to see you tomorrow, Al.
Oh, absolutely. Just let me know when you need me. I'll be more than happy. And again, just keep me on track and you'll be fine.
Ashe. Well, thank you so much.
Harambe, thank you so much for tuning into today's KUUMBA discussion. But the journey doesn't end here, bud. Join us and our guest of the week on January 1st, 2023 at 3 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time for a live roundtable discussion around the principle of Imani, which means faith. You can register to attend the roundtable at lu.ma/CKC23. That's lu.ma/CKC23. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates from our team and to connect with our cannabis community. See you on the other side.